In every royal family, there are those who stand beneath the piercing glare of the spotlight and those who remain in the shadows, the spares, whose lives are measured solely by their proximity to the throne. He was born fourth in line to the British crown, but this status became a prison rather than a privilege. Prince William of Gloucester was a man who tried to escape his title even while officially bearing its weight. For him, the title was no gift. It was a high wall separating him from genuine feelings, real work, and the very life he witnessed among ordinary people. He studied history at Cambridge and political science at Stanford. He served as a diplomat in Lagos and Tokyo. He fell in love with a woman the palace could never fathom as a royal bride. He commanded aircraft with a passion and professionalism that awed his fellow pilots and occasionally left his loved ones frozen in a collective frisson. By all accounts, he was a truly brilliant, truly restless man, someone who demanded to prove his personal worth before relying on his princely status, and who spent his short life chasing that version of himself. This is not merely a story about a prince who perished in a plane crash on a clear summer morning in Staffordshire. It is a story about what happens when a person is born inside an institution of power that seeks to fully regiment his destiny, and what is lost, irrevocably lost, when that person leaves before they can finish building their own path. Prince William Henry Andrew Afrit Frederick was born on December 18, 1941, in Hadley Common, Hertfordshire, at the very height of the Second World War. His father was Prince Henry, Duke of Gloucester, the third son of King George V and Queen Mary, a man to whose reputation history has not been particularly kind. Henry was considered the least intellectually distinguished among his brothers. He adored horses in hunting, felt profoundly awkward at public ceremonies, and was never a skilled conversationalist. A soldier by calling and temperament, a prince by birth and duty, he performed neither role with any particular grace. His mother, Princess Alice, was cut from entirely different cloth. Born Lady Alice Montague Douglas Scott, daughter of the 7th Duke of Buccleuch, she brought a sense of poise and intelligence to the marriage that her husband glaringly lacked. Those who knew her described her as a warm, perceptive, and deeply practical woman. The early years of young William were spent far from England. From 1945 to 1947, the family lived in Australia, where his father, Prince Henry, served as Governor General. It was a colonial childhood. William, alongside his parents, made regular appearances at public events, parades, and gatherings. The local press extensively covered the young prince's every step, using these charming family frames to boost civic morale during the grim period of post-war reconstruction. Even then, his duties were strictly representative. He was being conditioned to be the shop window of the empire. Upon returning to their homeland, William and his family settled into a spacious stone estate in the English countryside, which served as the Gloucester's ancestral seat. By royal standards, his childhood was relatively secluded. His father was frequently away on official business. His parents' marriage, though not unhappy, lacked the warmth that children so desperately craved. William matured early into a person who asked questions that those around him found deeply uncomfortable. Yet, this did not exempt him from dynastic obligations. On November 20th, 1947, 5-year-old William performed a vital symbolic role, serving as an official page boy at the wedding of his first cousin,
Princess Elizabeth, and Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. He solemnly carried the heavy train of the bride's wedding gown alongside Prince Michael of Kent. A few years later, on June 2, 1953, the 11-year-old prince, dressed in formal attire, attended the coronation of Elizabeth II at Westminster Abbey. He officially represented the Gloucester branch and was awarded his first coronation medal to mark the occasion. Upon reaching his majority, William's status was legally cemented. On December 18, 1962, his 21st birthday, he was appointed a Counselor of State. This meant he joined an exclusive circle of senior royals authorized to temporarily fulfill the monarch's duties, signing official documents and receiving foreign ambassadors whenever the Queen was abroad. He retained this grave responsibility for the rest of his life. As expected for a young man of his circle, he attended Eton. Eton offered him more than just a conventional education. It provided proximity to some of the most intellectually driven minds of his generation, boys destined for careers in politics, law, diplomacy, and the arts. The culture of Eton, whatever one might think of its social function, could never be accused of stifling ambition. William emerged with sharpened interests and a firmly established sense of himself as someone capable of rigorous intellectual pursuit. He then went up to Magdalen College, Cambridge, to read history. This subject suited him perfectly, feeding his analytical mind. He refused to settle for the purely ceremonial education his royal life sought to impose. He wanted to understand the mechanics of power and how nations rise and fall. His mentor described him as one of the most intellectually engaged students he had ever had the privilege to teach. After Cambridge, he enrolled at Stanford University in California to study political science, a choice that caused the court circles to raise their eyebrows in bewilderment. It was the mid-1960s. Stanford in 1964 was a boiling pot. The civil rights movement was reshaping the architecture of American society. The Vietnam War was igniting its long, agonizing fuse. Confronted with a world that bore no resemblance to the garden parties of Buckingham Palace, William realized one thing. He no longer wanted to be a mere ornament in the royal chronicles. He made an unprecedented decision for a royal of his time to break away from protocol and forge a real, paid career. Passing the standard, grueling competitive selection process, William entered the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. He became only the second member of the British royal family in history to work as a regular, salaried civil servant. During this period, he effectively shelved his traditional royal duties. His diplomatic career progressed rapidly and professionally. In 1965, he was posted to newly independent Lagos, Nigeria, as a third secretary at the High Commission. Although his lineage was no secret to the diplomatic corps, William sincerely sought to immerse himself in routine work. He drafted reports, analyzed economic ties, and earned the respect of his colleagues for his diligence and complete lack of pretense. In 1968, a new appointment followed, this time to Tokyo, Japan, as a second secretary. Transferring to Japan, the prince stepped directly into the commercial department of the British Embassy. Against the backdrop of Japan's post-war economic boom, William engaged in gritty, practical work, promoting British trade and business interests. British journalists noted with surprise that in Tokyo, the prince openly relished his freedom from court etiquette. He rented a private house, drove a sports car, and positioned himself as a professional civil servant rather than a member of a ruling dynasty. Yet, out of duty, he still occasionally represented the British crown at formal state receptions. Concurrently, having been appointed Commander-in-Chief of the St. John Ambulance Brigade, William began to personally oversee this crucial royal medical patronage.
It was in Tokyo that the question of his personal life became inescapable. William was approaching 30. The court's expectation, quiet, relentless, and unyielding, was that he would find a suitable match. This meant a woman of appropriate lineage, citizenship, and status. Buckingham Palace's definition of suitable was exceptionally narrow. William's was not. He fell deeply in love with Zsuzsi Starkloff, a glamorous Hungarian-American who worked as a model and flight attendant. Zsuzsi was vibrant, independent, older than the prince, twice divorced, and a mother. From the perspective of the rigid court conventions of the era, she was deemed an utterly impossible candidate for marriage to a prince of the blood. Their romance was profound and mutual. The palace watched the romance with mounting anxiety. Queen Elizabeth II even discreetly dispatched a young Prince Charles to Tokyo to gauge the seriousness of his cousin's intentions. William was indeed contemplating marriage. However, their union was shattered not by a tyrannical decree from the crown, but by harsh family reality and health crises. William was diagnosed with porphyria, a rare hereditary metabolic disorder believed to have afflicted his famous ancestor, King George III. Around the same time, in 1970, William's father, the Duke of Gloucester, suffered another severe stroke that left him completely paralyzed. As the eldest son, William could not abdicate this duty. He officially resigned from the Foreign Office and returned to England for good, to manage the family estate and assume his father's duties. Zsuzsi visited him in the UK, and they maintained contact, but the geographic separation and the sudden weight of responsibility for his ailing father caused the romance to gradually wither away. Nonetheless, they remained close friends for the rest of his days. The period from 1970 to 1972 transformed William into the very professional royal whose role he had evaded for so long. But now he embraced it maturely and deliberately. While en route from Tokyo to London in June 1970, he fulfilled a major diplomatic mission on behalf of Queen Elizabeth II. William represented the British monarchy at the official celebrations in the Kingdom of Tonga, marking the termination of the British Protectorate and the proclamation of the island nation's full independence. Upon his return, he assumed full management of Barnwell Manor, the vast, decaying family estate in Northamptonshire. He became the new face of the House of Gloucester, constantly standing in for his severely ill father at official functions, receptions, and military reviews. William began rapidly building his own network of patronages, selecting fields that genuinely interested him as an intellectual and researcher. In that same year of 1971, William visited the town of Oundle, where he officially opened a major new comprehensive school. He spent a long time conversationalizing with the students, leaving behind a profoundly warm impression. Just 1 year later, following his tragic death, the school's leadership successfully campaigned to have the institution renamed in his honor. It remains known as the Prince William School to this day. Yet the sky remained William's all-consuming passion. He approached aviation with the precision of a professional. He obtained a commercial pilot's license,
logged hundreds of hours, and personally ferried light aircraft between continents. From 1971 to 1972, William served as president of the British Light Aviation Centre. He actively leveraged his high royal status to champion sports and private aviation in the UK, securing subsidies, promoting flight safety, and supporting flying clubs. It was within the framework of this public service that he regularly competed in air races, fulfilling the role of a true prince aviator. On August 28, 1972, William, along with his co-pilot, the highly experienced Lieutenant Commander Viral Mitchell, took to the skies in a Piper Cherokee Arrow. They were competing in the International Goodyear Formula One air race at Halfpenny Green Airfield in Staffordshire. The aircraft took off at 12:22 p.m. Tragedy struck almost immediately. At a low altitude, while executing a sharp competitive bank to the left, the aircraft suddenly lost control, stalled on its wing, clipped the treetops, flipped, and slammed into the ground, exploding instantly in front of hundreds of spectators. 30 years of the prince's life vanished in a single heartbeat. The official investigation never was able to pinpoint the definitive root cause. The leading theories remained a sudden bird strike upon takeoff or an instantaneous mechanical failure of a flap, which, under the conditions of a low-altitude turn, left the pilots no time to correct the error.
The family's grief was immeasurable. Princess Alice received the news in Barnwell. She was 71 years old, and her husband was fading away. Having lost her eldest son, she found the strength to bear this grief with stoic silence. She will live for more than 30 years, cherishing the memory of William. His younger brother, Richard, was at that moment successfully building a career as an architect. He had graduated from Cambridge, established his own practice, and planned to live the life of an ordinary professional, far removed from the burdens of publicity. William's death erased those plans in an instant. Richard became the direct heir to the title, and upon his father's passing, the second Duke of Gloucester. He abandoned his beloved architecture and unquestioningly accepted the royal mantle his brother had been born to wear. He carries it with honor to this day. Today, looking back at the life of William of Gloucester, we see more than just a spare royal whose life was cut short in a fiery flash over Staffordshire. We see a man who was too alive for the frozen world of the Windsors. He was a prince who preferred the challenges of Stanford to the comfort of palaces, and the honest labor of a diplomat to court etiquette. He was a man who dared to love a woman who did not fit the template, and a pilot who sought in the sky that degree of personal freedom that neither titles nor bloodlines could provide. His passing was not only a tragedy for his family, but a symbolic closing of the door to a different, perhaps more progressive era of the British monarchy, one that he might have personified. William of Gloucester did not strive for power, he strove for life, and that is precisely what made him one of the most vibrant figures in the history of the Windsors. He left us a lesson that remains relevant to this day. Behind the facade of any title lies a fragile human destiny for which the hardest task is not to achieve success, but to preserve one's sincerity while bearing the weight of the world's expectations. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Please subscribe and leave a like if this story of a man who desperately tried to be himself behind the facade of royal titles resonated with you. And if you have anything to add, a fact I might have missed, new details from William's life,
or your own opinion on whether he ever stood a chance at a different destiny, please leave a comment below. I read them all and always welcome a good discussion. See you in the next video.